Growing up, I think every kid comes to see their grandparents' house as some kind of a magical place, right? When you think about it, your grandparents' house is awesome because it's a place where their parents keep your parents in check. It's a place where you can eat all the food you're not allowed to eat at your house. And probably most of all, it's a place that never seems to change. My grandparents' house was that sort of a magical place, and luckily, I didn't have to go far to get there. They just lived about a block down the street from me. And for years, I'd make that walk almost daily. And for years, I'd make that walk, and when I walked through their back door and up their back steps and into their living room, an immediate sense of peace, comfort, and familiarity seemed to wash over me. Day after day and year after year, nothing about their house ever seemed to change. There was always sweet tea in the fridge. The furniture never moved or changed for that matter. And each evening, I could always find them in front of the TV watching the evening news. For 23 years, that's how it was, day in and day out. And while I navigated the changes in my life over that period of time, I always looked forward to being in this place where nothing ever seemed to change. Eventually, though, things did change. My grandpa passed away, and then my grandma left the house to move in with my aunt and uncle a couple of towns over. For months after his death, I'd go home on the weekends and help my family clean out the house. And eventually, all the things that made that house feel like a home, they all disappeared. And before we sold the house, I made one last trip down the street, up the steps, and through the back door. As I walked through the empty rooms which once held such wonderful memories, I just couldn't help but cry. As I thanked God for the love that I'd experienced in that house, I looked around and thought to myself, so this is what change looks and feels like. See, change comes when you least expect it, and it touches everything, even the things you thought would never change. As I pondered the challenges of such change, I walked out that door and down the steps for the last time. And as I did, all I could think to myself was just how hard change really is. Now, you don't have to be a grieving grandson to learn that lesson, do you? Regardless of who you are, regardless of who you are, we all face the challenges of change. And the thing about change is, it's hard. Don't let anybody ever tell you that it's easy. It's hard to change your diet. It's hard to change your habits. It's hard to change where you're at in your spiritual life. And that's just the things that are voluntary. Think about all the involuntary challenges and changes that get pushed onto you, that get pressed down upon you. Change is hard. And in spite of the unique challenges that change presents in your life, I think we can all admit that there are some major changes occurring in our world right now that are creating some very, very big challenges. I mean, I could spend all morning here today talking about the unique seismic changes that we're experiencing in terms of politics, religion, climate, human sexuality, and the list goes on and on and on. But instead of talking about these issues, I want to spend a few moments talking to the people that these changes and challenges are going to impact the most. Our college students. See, right now, you're living through changes that no one else in these past generations has ever experienced. And because of that, you're heading into uncharted waters with no map, no compass, and where you decide to turn the sails will ultimately determine where you end up. That's because the old world that we've known for generations is slowly passing away, and a new one is being born right before our very eyes. And how you navigate the challenges that these changes bring will ultimately determine where we end up as a civilization, a country, and a church. No pressure, right? Now, to be honest, the challenges that you're facing with these changes are many. And while people may try to downplay or over-exaggerate these challenges, you need to know that they do exist. And whether you face them now or later, you're going to face them. And as anyone can tell you, when you face challenges of this magnitude alone and apart from anything else, there's just no way to stay above water. Without something greater than yourself to hold on to, these challenges might prove to be too much for any one of you. But friends, luckily for us, there is an anchor that is firm and secure. There's a steady tree by the water which we can grab onto, and from which these challenges cannot sweep us away. That steady presence in the midst of chaos is Jesus Christ. And for those who reach out to him in faith, these challenges won't overtake you. When we think about challenges and changes, my mind often goes back to the Old Testament. And all those years ago, it seemed as if God's chosen people, the Israelites, it seemed as if they never stopped facing the challenges of change. For generations, they kept finding themselves tossed about by exiles, foreign rulers, and apathetic people in a shallow faith. But in the midst of these challenges stood Isaiah, a prophet who called people to repent and turn their hearts back to God. Of course, many of his generation doubted. They doubted that their God could or would do anything to help them in the midst of these challenges. And they questioned whether the Lord would in fact bring them out of their present challenges and into a favorable future. Like many of us, the people of Israel longed for the past while they struggled in the present. They failed to believe that what was to come would be better than what had been. And in doing so, they failed to believe that the God who gave them a wonderful past would ever bring them into a favorable future. Sensing their apprehension to face these challenges and wanting to remind them that God's glory wasn't just something lost in history, but very much alive and real, the Lord gave Isaiah these words to share with his people. And these come out of Isaiah 43, verses 1 and 2. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. These words of comfort and encouragement that God shared with Isaiah continue to be words of comfort and encouragement to us today. For while it's easy to become discouraged when we see the challenges we're facing, God stands before us and says, don't fear. I'll face these challenges with you, and as long as you're holding on to me, you'll make it through. Regardless of how daunting the challenges we face may seem, God is with us. In spite of how fast the river may rise, God will not allow us to be swept away. And while we don't know what tomorrow brings, we do know who holds tomorrow. In a world that's always changing, we're able to depend on a God who's the same yesterday, today, and forever. In a sea of change, through times of transition, the Lord in his love remains steady. All you have to do is hold on. As you navigate this time of tremendous change, you'll hear voices from all over calling you to let go of everything you've ever known or believed. And while navigating the challenges of change undoubtedly means leaving some things behind, don't abandon everything for the sake of change. Sure, be sure to leave behind the things that have weighed you down, but never let go of the things which always lift you up. Weigh and measure the things which compete for time and attention in your life, and leave behind the sins and sufferings which have plagued you for too long. And in their place, give your attention and focus to things which honor God. Remember these words of encouragement from Philippians 4:8 that Mimi shared earlier. Finally, y'all, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. As the generation that God's raised up to meet the challenges of this age head on, be ready to abandon the pains of the past while setting your sights on the things which are noble and true. Hold on to God and navigate these challenges in such a way that we keep our focus on admirable and praiseworthy pursuits. And as you hold on, remember that you don't have to be a politician, a poet, or a priest to affect such God-honoring change. The Lord's not expecting you to be some single-minded, on-your-own, mercenary revolutionary who's going to take care of everything. Y'all, Jesus has already done that for us. All that God calls us to do through whatever gifts and callings we've been given is be faithful. Is to be faithful. If you're called to enter the classroom to teach the next generation of learners, be faithful. As you stand upon the shores of a changing economy and ponder your place in it, be faithful. And as you face challenges that neither you or anybody else has ever faced before, continue to be faithful. As we've already said, you're going to face challenges and changes that we've never faced before. And while remaining faithful won't always give you all the answers or even lead you down the easiest path, y'all, it's worth it. It's worth it because Christ, our Lord, has already faced the challenges that we could not face ourselves. It's worth it because Christ has brought about the changes that we could not bring about ourselves. And it's worth it because regardless of what we face or endure, God is with us. While we stand in the midst of an ever-changing world and ponder our own place in it, we have to remember that God is standing there with us. Excuse me. But unlike the voices that are calling us to hold on to the past, calling us to never let go of what has been, God's voice is calling us to jump headfirst into the challenges of change. He's calling us to remember His faithfulness to us and to step boldly into a future where He will continue to be just as faithful. Sometimes that future is going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. Other times, it'll be absolutely terrifying. But even when you're heading to a new and wonderful place, sometimes you got to drive through a sketchy town or two, right? Even you're going to encounter some unforeseen challenges and obstacles. But when you do, don't lose heart. Remember what Christ has told us, that in this world you will have trouble. But take heart. I have overcome the world. Students, for those of you who are graduating, as you look forward to that date in just a couple of weeks, and you slowly begin to realize the challenges that await you on the other side, be faithful. Be faithful and take heart. As you wrestle about your calling, as you entertain questions about graduate schools, jobs, relationships, and student debt, take heart. The God who's been with you in the past will continue to be with you in the future. The God who overcame the grave has overcome the challenges of this world, including your very own. And regardless of where the challenges of a changing world may take you, God will be there with you. So go forth and enjoy this life that God's called you to live, this life that He has equipped you to live. And as you navigate the challenges of change, hold on to Jesus. Be faithful and take heart. And remember that no matter where your life may take you, the Lord your God goes with you, and He'll never leave you.